Which brings us to your first inaugural address. You called for a 5% cut in the income tax, an elimination of income taxes for those earning under $7,500 per year, and a cut in the corporate tax to 9% retroactively. Mm-hmm. This was a bold step, and if I remember, there was some surprise on the dais that
there was
day.
A lot of surprise.
Yes.
It happened the way it happened because, right after I was elected, I was asked, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to cut taxes. They said, no, what are you really going to do? And I said, I'm going to cut taxes. And so then some of the press went to the legislature, and I started hearing some things, some quotes from legislative leaders in my party who were saying, well, that's election, and now we've got to look at the budget, and I could sense a softening here, so I didn't tell them. And it was the year that Bill Clinton had retroactively raised a tax it was a big deal that he'd retroactively. So what I said is, if he can do it, if he can retroactively raise a tax, I can retroactively cut a tax. And the bill's on your desk, oh, by the way. And I hadn't told them, and they were all sitting behind me. I couldn't see their expressions, but I'm told they were a little shocked in the legislature to hear this. But there was nothing they could do because I had the whole audience, and of course they were all cheering, and this is what I'd said I'd do. And so that started the process of getting to the 30% tax cut in the 3 years, and less than 3 years, actually.
So is the fact that they were sort of framing it in that, well, perhaps we'll look at that, is that what convinced you to take such a bold step?
Yeah, that's what convinced me to do it retroactively, because I could sense that we would lose it otherwise. That if I didn't do it when I had a stage where I could get the public really behind it and kind of box them in so it was hard to get out of it, it wasn't going to happen.
Right, there was no going back after that.
No. That was.
And their reaction immediately following?
What could they do? They sucked it up and said, okay, well, that's what she said she was going to do. I don't think they were very happy about it. And again, it probably soured relations and made things a little more difficult than it should have been with the legislature, even with the Republicans. And I don't blame them. I can understand why they'd be a little affronted by it. But on the other hand, they were getting squishy on me. I could sense that. And I wasn't going to let them go because that's what I said I was going to do. And I was convinced that was the best way to get the state back on its feet and get the economy going again.
Did it make it more difficult for you because of that?
I think probably. But, I hadn't dealt with the legislature before, so I didn't know what was difficult and what wasn't in the day-to-day dealings with the legislature.
Right, because certainly if there's going to be such a bold tax cut, they want to be getting some cred for that as well, right?
They did afterwards. I mean, that's why they had to say yes. They weren't going to stand up there afterwards when it was obviously very popular. It's what had gotten me elected, and it also happened to be the right thing to do for the state. So they jumped on board right afterwards, but I don't think they were all that thrilled at having been blindsided.
What was the reaction from the press, if you recall?
I think surprise, real surprise. And I think they tried to get some of the legislators to say that this was a silly thing to have done, but they didn't. They didn't bite on that. They were good about it. The Republicans were good about that. They stepped right up. And I think the press was surprised. I do know that there were then some subsequent op-eds that sort of said, well, her husband must be putting together these plans. It must be the man that's doing this. And so John never came to the State House after that.
What did you? What was your reaction to that? To that framing, as if it had been John and not you?
Again, I wasn't going to change it. You just don't feed the beast. So he didn't come to the State House. You just don't make it easy for them to write those stories if he's not around. We slept together every night, so he could still give me all the good ideas. But he wasn't visibly there in their face to pick me up for lunch and tell me all the good ideas.
How did the public respond to you after that?
They loved it. I mean, the public was very much, I think as much because it was unusual for an office holder or a politician to actually start to do what they said they were going to do. And that was really the reaction I got, that was, wow, maybe this is really going to happen. Because I think a lot of them thought, it's a good idea, I like it, I hope that happens. But they didn't really believe that it would happen. And so that they were very supportive.